First contact's surprise. Admiral Maya Chen stood at the observation deck of the Lunar Defense Station, her dark eyes fixed on the massive alien vessel that had just emerged from what her scientists called a probability fold near Saturn's rings. The ship was beautiful in its own way, all sweeping curves and iridescent metal that seemed to drink in starlight. But Maya wasn't admiring the aesthetics. She was counting weapons emplacements, analyzing shield configurations, and noting the subtle gravitational distortions that suggested capabilities far beyond what the vessel's exterior suggested. Their main gun could crack Luna in half, Lieutenant Santos remarked from his station, dark fingers dancing over holographic displays that looked deliberately antiquated. If they could get it to work here, that is. Maya smiled, the expression barely touching her weathered features. That's a big if, Lieutenant. How are the probability anchors holding? Rock solid, Admiral. Local space-time is locked down tighter than a quantum vault. They just don't know it yet. The alien vessel, the collective Dominion according to their transmission, had arrived 3 hours ago, broadcasting what they clearly thought was an overwhelming show of force. Their message had been polite enough, but the subtext was clear. Submit to evaluation for potential membership in their galactic civilization, or face consequences. They hadn't yet noticed that their quantum drives were already operating at 3% efficiency, or that their much-vaunted shields were slowly being transformed into an elaborate light show. The laws of physics in Sol's system had some very specific opinions about how technology should behave, and humanity had learned long ago to listen. They're launching a shuttle, Santos reported. Small craft, minimal armament. But Mom, these readings can't be right. They're trying to use some kind of localized space-time compression for propulsion. That's admirable, Maya suggested, watching the shuttle's erratic progress. Like watching someone try to crack a walnut with a quantum tunnel. The shuttle's drive kept flickering as it encountered patches of locally regulated space-time, forcing it to rely on conventional thrusters. Send them the standard greeting package. Let's see how they handle it. The standard greeting package was a masterpiece of human subtlety. On the surface, it appeared to be a simple text message containing docking protocols and safety warnings. Buried within its seemingly primitive coding were layers of mathematical proofs that demonstrated humanity's complete understanding of the fundamental forces the aliens were trying to manipulate. Most species missed it entirely. The clever ones usually took about 6 hours to decode the first layer. The collected's response came almost immediately. Primitive species, your assistance is unnecessary. Our technology far exceeds your crude methods. Maya's smile widened slightly. They missed it completely, didn't they? Santos nodded, trying to suppress a grin. Not even a glance at the substrate mathematics. Want me to send them the enhanced version? No need to show off. Yet, Maya straightened her simple blue uniform. Prepare the receiving bay. Let's welcome them properly. Full diplomatic protocol, but keep everything looking appropriately primitive. The receiving bay was a marvel of deceptive engineering. At first glance, it appeared to be little more than a large chamber with basic life support and artificial gravity. In reality, it was a testing ground, every surface embedded with sensors that could analyze visitors down to the quantum level while appearing to be nothing more than polished metal and simple lighting. The alien shuttle landed with a grace that suggested its pilots were compensating heavily for failing systems. 3 figures emerged, tall, crystalline beings that seemed to shift and flow like liquid glass. Their environmental suits were works of art, covered in pulsing lights and floating holographic displays. Maya stepped forward, flanked by Santos and Dr. Sarah Rivera, their chief physicist. Her uniform was deliberately plain, lacking even rank insignia. "Welcome to Luna Station," she said warmly. "I'm Admiral Chen. We're honored to receive representatives of the collective." The tallest alien stepped forward, its crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns. "I am High Commander Zixtal of the Collective Dominion. We have come to evaluate your species for potential elevation to associate status within our civilization. The translation came through their own devices, rich with harmonics that suggested superiority and benevolent condescension. How thoughtful, Maya replied, her tone carefully neutral. Though I'm curious about one thing, High Commander. Have you had the opportunity to examine the mathematical proofs we included in our greeting? Your primitive codes were noted and dismissed, Zixtol replied. They held no relevant information for a civilization of our advancement. Maya exchanged a quick glance with Dr. Rivera, who was doing an admirable job of keeping a straight face. I see. Then perhaps we should begin with a demonstration. Dr. Rivera, would you mind showing our guests why their quantum drives aren't functioning at full capacity? Rivera stepped forward, pulling what appeared to be an ancient tablet computer from her pocket. With a few taps, a holographic display appeared. But unlike the aliens' flashy technology, this one seemed to be made of pure mathematics, equations flowing and combining in impossible ways. You see, Rivera began, her voice carrying the patience of a teacher addressing eager students, you've been trying to force space-time to bend to your will. We learned long ago that it's much more effective to ask nicely. The aliens' crystalline forms flickered with what might have been surprise as their suits' displays suddenly came alive with warnings. Their technology was beginning to realize just how thoroughly it had been contained, analyzed, and politely but firmly told to behave itself. Maya watched their reaction with carefully hidden satisfaction. First contact was always interesting, but it was particularly entertaining when the visitors needed a gentle reminder that humanity's apparent technological simplicity was a choice, not a limitation. The real education was about to begin. The silent defense. High Commander Zixtel's crystalline form pulsed with barely contained agitation as they reviewed the data streaming across their suits' displays. Every diagnostic told the same story. Their advanced technology was operating at a fraction of its normal capability, constrained by what the humans called local space-time regulations. Impossible, they declared, their harmonics sharp with frustration. You cannot simply change the fundamental laws of physics. Dr. Rivera's smile widened slightly as she manipulated her holographic equations. We didn't change them, Commander. We just learned to work with them more effectively. Your quantum drives, for instance, beautiful pieces of engineering, but they're trying to force their way through space-time like a hammer through a wall. We prefer to knock politely and wait for the door to open. Admiral Chen watched the exchange with practiced patience. She'd seen this reaction before, the mixture of disbelief, anger, and dawning comprehension that came when advanced species realized that humanity's apparent technological backwardness was actually technological restraint. Perhaps a demonstration would help, Chen suggested, noting how the other two crystalline beings had drawn closer to their commander, their forms flickering with uncertainty. Dr. Rivera, would you show our guests the Jupiter defense grid? Rivera nodded, her dark curls bouncing as she adjusted her tablet's display. The holographic mathematics shifted, forming into a representation of the solar system. Jupiter glowed softly, surrounded by what appeared to be nothing more than a network of simple satellites. This is impossible, one of Zixtel's subordinates burst out, their form rippling with agitation. Our scans showed no defensive capabilities in your system beyond basic orbital platforms. That's because you were looking for weapons, Rivera explained kindly. We don't use those much anymore. Watch this. She tapped her tablet, and the space around Jupiter shifted. There was no other word for it. The very fabric of reality seemed to fold in on itself, creating patterns that made the aliens' visual processors struggle to compensate. What you're seeing, Chen explained, is a small demonstration of our approach to system defense. We don't need massive weapons platforms or energy shields. We simply adjust local physics to make certain things impossible. Like, for instance, the kind of quantum tunneling your ships use for faster-than-light travel. The aliens' data displays were going haywire now, their advanced sensors trying desperately to make sense of what they were seeing. The space around Jupiter wasn't just blocked or shielded. It was operating under what appeared to be completely different physical laws. But this violates every principle of unified field theory. Zixtal protested, their harmonics reaching frequencies that made the humans' teeth itch. You can't have different physical constants in different regions of space. Actually, Rivera corrected gently, you can. You just have to ask the universe nicely. Your civilization tried to master quantum mechanics by forcing it to behave according to your theories. We did it the other way around. We studied how quantum mechanics wanted to behave, and then built our theories to match. Lieutenant Santos, who had been quietly monitoring his systems, cleared his throat. Admiral, we're picking up increased power signatures from the collective vessel. I think they're trying to bring their main weapon online. Chen sighed. This part was always tedious. Commander Zixtal, I should warn you that attempting to activate your primary quantum cascade cannon would be unfortunate. The local space-time geometry won't support that kind of forced quantum coherence. The energy would have nowhere to go except back into your ship. As if to demonstrate her point, the lights in the alien leader's suits flickered briefly as another wave of warnings cascaded across their displays. Their ship's eye was apparently smart enough to recognize that its most powerful weapon had been rendered not just useless, but actively dangerous to use. This is an outrage. Zixtal's harmonics had shifted to frequencies that suggested both fear and anger. You cannot simply nullify centuries of technological advancement. On the contrary, Chen replied calmly, we're not nullifying anything. We're showing you what's possible when you stop trying to force the universe to play by your rules. Your technology is impressive, Commander, but it's built on the assumption that progress means making reality conform to your wishes. We took a different approach. Rivera's holographic display shifted again, showing layer upon layer of mathematical proofs that demonstrated exactly how humanity had learned to work with quantum mechanics rather than against it. The equations were deceptively simple, elegant in their clarity, but their implications were staggering. We're not primitive, Commander, Chen continued softly. We just believe that true advancement comes from understanding, not domination. Now, shall we discuss your presence in our system as equals, or do you need further demonstrations of why attempting to force your will upon space-time might be unwise? The crystalline beings huddled together, their forms shifting through patterns that suggested intense communication. Around them, Luna Station hummed quietly, its seemingly simple systems masking levels of technological sophistication that the aliens were only beginning to comprehend. Humanity hadn't needed to build bigger guns or stronger shields. They'd simply learned to ask the universe for cooperation rather than demanding compliance. And now, faced with the results of that philosophy, the collective was about to learn a valuable lesson about the true nature of technological progress. Quantum checkmate. The collective dominion's response came swiftly and predictably. Within hours of High Commander Zixtal's return to their flagship, a fleet of 30 vessels emerged from probability folds at the edge of the solar system. Their crystalline hulls gleamed with lethal purpose, each ship bristling with weapons that could reduce planets to asteroids. In Luna Station's command center, Admiral Chen watched the tactical display with the calm of someone observing an incoming rain shower. Right on schedule, she murmured. They always think more ships will solve the problem. Fleet's holding position just beyond Neptune's orbit, Santos reported. They're running active scans, trying to map our defense grid, looks like. He paused, a slight smile playing across his face. They're not having much luck. Of course not, Dr. Rivera replied from her station, where streams of quantum mathematics flowed across her displays. They're still looking for technology they can understand. It's like trying to find a stealth fighter by looking for its shadow. The command center itself reflected humanity's philosophical approach to technology, where alien command centers were typically crowded with holographic displays and floating interfaces. Luna Station's nerve center appeared almost austere. Simple screens showed complex data in elegant, understated ways. The most sophisticated technology was hidden within the seemingly basic systems, like advanced mathematics concealed within simple equations. A communication request flashed across the main screen. Chen nodded to Santos. Let's hear what they have to say. The image that appeared showed not Sixtel, but a new figure, a crystalline being whose form rippled with deep purple and crimson patterns. I am Supreme Commander Vexthor of the Collective Dominion Battle Fleet. Your deception and interference with collective technology will not be tolerated. Surrender your spatial manipulation capabilities immediately, or face annihilation. Chen's expression remained pleasant, but her dark eyes hardened slightly. Supreme Commander, I would strongly advise against hostile action. Your ships are currently operating under our local physics protocols. Any attempt to engage weapon systems could have unfortunate consequences. Your primitive manipulations cannot stand against the combined might of the collective, Vexthor declared, their form pulsing with aggressive harmonics. We will show you the true meaning of advanced technology. The transmission cut off. Chen sighed, exchanging glances with Rivera. They're going to try it, aren't they? Rivera nodded, her fingers dancing across her console. Quantum cascade buildup detected in multiple vessels. They're spooling up their main weapons. Should we stop them? Santos asked, his hand hovering over his own controls. Chen shook her head. Sometimes the only way to learn is through practical demonstration. Dr. Rivera, please ensure their weapons discharge safely. We don't want anyone getting hurt. The collective fleet's attack, when it came, was spectacular, but not in the way they intended. 30 quantum cascade cannons fired simultaneously, each capable of tearing holes in the fabric of reality. Under normal circumstances, the combined barrage would have reduced the inner solar system to plasma. Instead, space itself seemed to hiccup. The massive energy discharge encountered humanity's carefully maintained quantum fields and simply redirected. Like water flowing around rocks in a stream, the devastating attack curved gracefully back toward its source. Energy containment fields engaging, Rivera reported calmly. Redirecting weapon discharge into controlled probability loops. Quite impressive output. Actually, they've really mastered brute force approaches to quantum manipulation. The collective fleet's weapons fire danced and swirled in space, forming complex patterns that would have been beautiful if they weren't so deadly. Some ships tried to shut down their weapons, only to find that the energy had nowhere else to go. Others attempted to raise shields, not realizing that their defensive systems were operating under the same physical constraints as their weapons. Incoming transmission, Santos announced. Multiple vessels reporting critical power fluctuations. Their containment fields are starting to fail. Chen straightened in her chair. Broadcast on all frequencies. Power down your ships immediately. We can help you safely discharge the energy buildup, but you need to stop fighting the local physics. Several tense minutes passed as the collective fleet struggled with their failing systems. One by one, the mighty warships went dark, their quantum drives and weapon systems shutting down to prevent catastrophic overload. Soon, 30 of the most powerful vessels in the galaxy were drifting helplessly in space, their crews watching in disbelief as their own energy attacks continued to dance harmlessly around them. All ships powered down, Santos confirmed. No casualties, though I think we may have severely wounded their pride. Pride heals, Chen replied, standing up. Dr. Rivera, please begin energy dissipation procedures. Lieutenant Santos, prepare to extend our gravitational support to their vessels. Let's not leave them drifting. She straightened her uniform. And send a message to Supreme Commander Vexthor. Tell them that when they're ready to discuss physics instead of demonstrating it, we'll be happy to explain exactly what just happened. Rivera's display showed the complex mathematical symphony that was currently preventing 30 ships' worth of quantum cascade energy from destroying half the solar system. You know, she mused, we really should thank them. This is the largest practical demonstration of our quantum field theories we've ever had. The data we're collecting is remarkable. Chen smiled. Include that in the message to Vexthor. Maybe a little scientific curiosity. will help ease the sting of their tactical readjustment. She looked at the tactical display, where 30 dots representing collective warships hung motionless in space, and prepare the conference room. I suspect we're about to have some very interesting discussions about the nature of technological progress. Around them, Luna Station hummed quietly, its seemingly simple systems continuing to maintain the delicate quantum dance that kept the peace in Sol system. Humanity hadn't needed to fire a single shot to defeat the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. They had simply shown the universe's physics what they wanted to accomplish, and politely asked for cooperation. The knowledge exchange. The conference room aboard Luna Station hummed with tension and possibility. Around the circular table sat representatives of two fundamentally different approaches to understanding the universe. On one side, the crystalline forms of the collective's leadership rippled with suppressed emotion. Supreme Commander Vexthor, High Commander Zixtal, and their chief scientist, Nelloris, whose form shifted through shades of deep blue indicating intense intellectual curiosity. Facing them sat Admiral Chen, Dr. Rivera, and Dr. James Wong, Earth's leading expert on quantum harmonics. The contrast between the two groups couldn't have been more striking. The aliens with their shifting crystalline forms and sophisticated environmental suits, the humans in simple uniforms with nothing more advanced than Rivera's tablet visible. Let me understand this correctly, Nelloris began, their harmonics carefully modulated to convey scientific inquiry, rather than the frustration evident in their companions. Your entire defensive system is based on asking the universe for permission. Dr. Wong smiled, his weathered face creasing with genuine warmth. That's an oversimplification, but not entirely incorrect. Think of it this way. Your approach to quantum mechanics is like trying to dam a river. Ours is like understanding the river's natural flow and building our systems to work with it rather than against it. But this defies centuries of established theory. Nelloris protested, though their color patterns suggested fascination rather than dismissal. The quantum realm is chaos incarnate. It must be controlled, forced into predictable patterns. And that's where we diverge, Rivera interrupted gently. She pulled up her familiar holographic mathematics display, but this time split it to show both human and collective equations side by side. Look at your base assumptions. Every formula starts with forcing quantum states into predetermined patterns. Ours start by observing natural quantum behaviors and building our theories around them. Supreme Commander Vexthor's form pulsed with barely contained agitation. This is irrelevant. The fact remains that you used these techniques to disable an entire collective battle fleet. Such power cannot be allowed to. We didn't disable your fleet, Commander, Chen corrected quietly. Your own weapons did that. We simply showed the quantum energy where it could safely go when it couldn't do what you were trying to force it to do. Like a martial artist redirecting an opponent's strength. A more productive question, Wong suggested, might be why we choose to use seemingly primitive technology for most of our needs when we clearly understand quantum mechanics at this level. That caught their attention. Nelris's form shifted to a deep purple of intense interest, while even Vexthor's aggressive red patterns dulled slightly with curiosity. Yes, Nelris agreed, this has puzzled us since first contact. Your everyday technology appears to be centuries behind your theoretical understanding. Why? Chen smiled. Because we learned something important during our development. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Every quantum manipulation, every violation of standard physics comes with a cost. Not to us, but to the fabric of space-time itself. Rivera's display shifted, showing the complex web of quantum fields surrounding Earth and its colonies. We discovered that the more we forced reality to bend to our will, the more rigid it became, like building up scar tissue. But when we worked with natural quantum fluctuations, space-time remained flexible, even helpful. That's why we still use chemical rockets for most space travel, Wong added. They're inefficient by your standards, but they don't stress the quantum field. We save our advanced technology for things that really matter, like preventing well-meaning civilizations from accidentally tearing holes in space-time. Nelris was practically vibrating with excitement now. The implications, our entire approach to technological development. They turned to their commanders. We must study this. The mathematical principles alone could revolutionize our understanding of. Out of the question, Vexthor snapped, their form flashing brilliant red. This knowledge is too dangerous, if other species were to learn. They already are, Chen interrupted softly. We're not the only ones who've discovered this approach. We're just the ones who decided to actively protect it. She leaned forward, her dark eyes intense. Why do you think you've never encountered other civilizations using quantum manipulation at your level? They either figure this out on their own, or they push too hard, and their science collapses in on itself. A heavy silence fell over the room as the implications sank in. Finally, Zixtel spoke for the first time since the meeting began. You're saying, we're on a path to our own destruction. Not necessarily, Rivera assured them. Your technology works. It's just inefficient, wasteful, like using a fusion reactor to power a light bulb. We can show you better ways. In exchange for what? Vexthor demanded, but their harmonics had lost some of their edge. Chen spread her hands. Knowledge, exchange, partnership. Your civilization has achieved remarkable things, even if your methods are a bit forceful. Imagine what we could accomplish together, combining your drive for advancement with our understanding of quantum cooperation. Nelris could no longer contain themselves. The potential applications, terraforming without quantum scaring, clean energy production on scales we never. They turned to their commanders, their form pulsing with urgent patterns. We must consider this offer. Wang nodded approvingly. The universe has so much to teach us, if we're willing to learn. Sometimes the most advanced civilizations are the ones wise enough to take notes instead of giving orders. As the discussion continued, Luna Station's hidden systems continued their quiet work, maintaining the delicate balance of local physics, while humanity offered their recent adversaries a new way of seeing the universe, not as something to be conquered, but as something to be understood. Evolution's child. 3 months after the failed invasion of Sol system, the observation deck of Europa Station offered a striking view of both human and collective ships working side by side. Crystalline vessels hung in space alongside conventional human craft, their crews collaborating on the installation of new quantum field monitoring stations around Jupiter. Admiral Chen stood at the window, watching a collective science vessel demonstrate its newly modified drive system, one that worked with local spacetime instead of against it. The ship's movement was graceful, efficient, using barely a fraction of the energy its old systems had required. The reduction in quantum scaring is remarkable, Dr. Nelris observed, their crystalline form shifting through shades of satisfied blue as they studied the readings. We've achieved faster than light travel with only 12% of our previous energy expenditure. And the local spacetime matrix actually seems to be healing. That's what happens when you stop trying to punch holes in reality and start asking it for directions instead, Dr. Rivera replied with a smile. She was working with a team of human and collective scientists, their combined expertise leading to breakthroughs neither civilization could have achieved alone. Supreme Commander Vexthor, who had remained on Jupiter Station as the collective's primary liaison, approached the group. Their once aggressive red patterns had mellowed to thoughtful purples and blues. The High Council has reviewed our latest findings, they announced. They've approved the formation of the Joint Physics Preservation Initiative. Chen nodded, satisfaction evident in her expression. Good. We've identified 17 other civilizations approaching the quantum manipulation threshold. They'll need guidance to avoid the pitfalls your people encountered. Still hard to believe we never noticed the damage we were causing, Nelris mused. All those tears in spacetime, building up like scar tissue around our worlds. Their form flickered with embarrassment. We were so proud of our quantum cascade weapons, never realizing they were like sledgehammers in a glass house. Pride blinds us all sometimes, Wang offered diplomatically. He'd become the unofficial bridge between human and collective scientific teams, his gentle approach helping ease the cultural transitions. The important thing is learning from our mistakes. A flash of light from Jupiter caught their attention. One of the new monitoring stations had come online, its sophisticated sensors designed to detect and prevent dangerous manipulation of local physics. It was part of a growing network that would help protect developing civilizations from their own technological enthusiasm. "There's something I still don't understand," Vex Thor said, their harmonics carrying genuine curiosity. "Your civilization clearly mastered quantum mechanics centuries ago. You could have built an empire far larger than the collective. Why choose to remain in one star system, using primarily primitive technology?" Chen turned from the window, her expression thoughtful. "Because we learned something important during our development. Something that changed how we saw our role in the galaxy." She gestured to the stars visible beyond Jupiter. "Every civilization reaches a crossroads in their development. They either learn to work with the universe's natural laws, or they try to force their way through them. And those who choose force eventually destroy themselves," Nelris added, understanding dawning in their shifting patterns. "Usually," Rivera confirmed, "but occasionally, they do something much more dangerous. They survive long enough to teach their methods to others. That's how you get situations like the collective, with entire sectors of space riddled with quantum scaring." "So you chose to be guardians," Vex Thor realized, their form pulsing with new respect. "Protecting the galaxy not through force, but through understanding." Wang nodded. "Humanity's last stand wasn't against any enemy. It was against our own impulse to dominate rather than comprehend. We chose to be students of the universe rather than its conquerors." A alert chimed softly, drawing their attention to Rivera's display. "Speaking of students," she said, "we're detecting quantum manipulation attempts in the Carina sector. Looks like the Nexari have discovered probability mining." Already, Nelris's form shifted to concerned greens. "Their industrial base is barely at fusion level. They're not ready for quantum mechanics." "Then let's go teach them," Chen suggested. "Not as conquerors or critics, but as guides. Show them what we've learned about working with the universe instead of against it." She smiled at the collective representatives. "Together this time. After all, there's nothing quite like recent experience to make the lesson stick." Vex Thor's form rippled with what might have been embarrassment, but they nodded. "The collective fleet stands ready to assist, this time as teachers rather than warriors." As they made preparations to contact the Nexari civilization, Chen reflected on how far they'd come. The collective had arrived as would-be conquerors and become partners in preservation. It was a pattern humanity had seen before and would likely see again. The moment when an advanced civilization realized that true progress came not from dominating the universe, but from learning to dance with it. Outside, Jupiter's massive form caught the distant sunlight, while human and collective ships moved through space in perfect harmony with the quantum fields around them. They were no longer forcing their way through reality, but rather moving with its natural flow. It was a dance that had taken humanity centuries to learn, but now they could teach it to others. The universe, it turned out, was an excellent teacher, if you were willing to stop talking long enough to listen.